Hi, everyone. Welcome to the PMSA webinar, Revisiting Commercial Analytics for Effective Customer Engagement in the New Normal, presented by Indegene. This webinar will be presented by Krishnan Raman, Director at Indegene, Debashis Das, Senior Manager at Indegene, and Tarun Shukla, Engagement Manager at Indegene. If you'd like to ask a question during today's webinar, please type your questions into the question tab of the GoToWebinar dashboard. All questions will be addressed at the conclusion of the presentation. I'll now turn things over to Krishnan Raman at Indegene to begin the webinar.
Thank you, Chris. Firstly, I would like to thank PMSA for providing this great platform and opportunity, right? And of course, to Chris for setting this all up, right? Hello, everyone. I'm Krishnan GKR and lead digital and campaign analytics initiatives within Indegene. Today, I'm also joined by Debashis Das, who is a specialist in marketing investment strategies and Salesforce effectiveness solutions, as well as Tarun Shukla, who leads campaign analytics and measurement across various client engagements. Before we deep dive into the presentation, I would like to provide some context behind the topic of today's discussion. Today, all of us interact and engage with various new age brands like Netflix, Amazon, Airbnb, and Ubers of the world, right? These brands are setting up new benchmarks and providing a highly personalized experience in a seamless manner. And we all know that this is a result of exceptional understanding of the customer's needs and wants. And so the outcome is each of us as a consumer have started to expect similar experience from brands across industries. It's irrespective of whichever industry or domain we engage with. We need a similar experience with the brands that we interact, right? So pharma commercial operations today are facing challenges in keeping up with these changing expectations of the customer and be agile to adopt. While we see most pharma organizations have started their digital transformation journey with investment in digitization, modular content, CRM, and other marketing automation systems, as we all know, right? Uh, the enabling the commercial teams with more real-time data and cutting-edge analytics becomes a core of all of these, right? However, despite all these, there is still room for sales and marketing teams to function in a more integrated manner. We believe the customer engagement strategy that is being adopted today will not be sufficient going forward. And hence the sales and marketing operations will need to evolve and adopt to newer capabilities as we go into the future, right? And hence our presentation today will focus on the current state, its limitations, and how an integrated sales and marketing ecosystem is going to help organizations orchestrate a seamless omni-channel engagement with the customer. So moving forward in the next slide, we shall see what is the impact of the current situation on the industry. While pharma and healthcare industries have been embracing this change, what has happened is the recent COVID situation has only motivated organizations to reevaluate their commercial strategies and, most importantly, accelerate the speed of adoption. So a recent survey conducted with HCPs indicate that while pharma representatives still play a crucial role, a key role in this evolving industry, they no longer dominate the sales and marketing landscape, right? So a face-to-face engagement, which used to be a key promotion channel for pharma, has witnessed 94% decline in weekly touch points, right? That's pretty significant given the fact that most of the conversations and promotions and branding used to happen through this channel, right? However, it is to be noted that it is the same time frame during which remote channels of engagement, especially remote detailing, has occupied this gap and gone up by around 100%, right? What's interesting is to note that more customers have agreed to the fact that as we move back towards normalcy, the influence of the current situation is expected to have a lasting change in customer behavior. This could be seen from the fact that 30% of HCPs expected to reduce their face-to-face interactions as we move forward into the new normal, right? So what does all these mean to us, the implication, right? A few companies that have relied heavily on Salesforce are struggling to find their ground in the new normal. And many others who have started translate this scenario into an opportunity and accelerate this move into a digital first initiatives, right? So let's move to the next slide. So we at Indegene have an ongoing initiative that connects industry experts and senior pharma leaders to share their ideas, best practices in their respective organizations and focus areas, right? So we see this as an opportunity to engage with top pharma leaders to get their ideas and thoughts. With the current situation, we recently conducted a digital council. 15 of the top pharma leaders came together and discussed about challenges and opportunities that were presented, the current turn of events that presented this, right? So most experts who are visionaries in their respective domain felt that the current situation should be seen as an opportunity to address some of the long-standing gaps in the current ways in which operations and legacy systems are managed. And most of the discussions revolved around adoption of digital initiatives across organizations, right? Especially ones that are centered around customer management and planning, creating the right kind of customer experience, right? These are the key areas which the experts believe that the focus would be moving forward, right? The views expressed by these top industry leaders, all of this pivot towards enabling an organization that provides the ideal ecosystem for an integrated planning amongst all customer facing teams and with an end goal of delivering exceptional customer experience, right? So with all of these views in mind, in the consecutive slides, we shall now walk you through how analytics can support this new age customer experience driven transformation and what are the components that enable these. Tarun, can you move to the next slide?
Yeah. Thanks, Krishnan, for setting up the context. And now we are moving towards the technical components. And starting the same with the traditional framework, we keep the data management component out of scope for this discussion, and rest entire commercial operations can be categorized under 4 pillars. They are customer strategy, planning and optimization, deployment, execution, and the last and final pillar is a tracking and measurement framework. So various activities under these pillars are laid out are either focusing on Salesforce centric operations or marketing centric operations. But there is a thick line between them since the overlap is minimal between them. From analytics perspective, there has been minimal focus given to the marketing operation and main focus going towards the Salesforce centric operations. For example, a typical customer segmentation and targeting exercise doesn't usually take into account a customer channels and content strategies. Similarly, Salesforce sizing and marketing mix analysis has been viewed as two different entities. The insight generated from marketing mix analysis plays a minimal role to drive the Salesforce strategy. In many cases, digital and virtual channels have mostly been leveraged in silos, majorly for white space, low access SCPs. Different marketing vendors are working on their target universe, deploy different targeting strategies. In effect, there is no integrated approach to drive customer engagement and their experience. So there are few drawbacks mentioned in this slide, but the major concern is it is difficult to create an omni-channel strategy and to define any orchestration role for the sales reps if we continue following the current framework. Moving to the next slide. Now we move towards the proposed framework, which we call as the next generation sales and marketing operations. This framework is relatively integrated, but we kept all the pillars and many of the analytics components are same as we discussed earlier. However, the scope is little wider, keeping omni-channel engagements in focus. And to enable this integrated approach, we propose a new age engine that unifies the sales and marketing operations tightly integrated, dynamic, and highly data-driven process. While some of the components in this integrated approach are similar to the traditional one, but the difference lies in how deeply we understand our customers, plan their needs, deploy in a unified manner, measure their engagement across multiple channels, and continuously improve and optimize. Some of those components are like channel and content personalization, unified customer engagement strategy, multi-dimensional scoring, real-time multi-channel recommendation, next best action planning, real-time view of omni-channel responses, etc., plays a significant role to achieve the same. And in the section below, you can see the feedback loop plays a significant role in all the pillars, starting on real-time recommendation to sales and marketing team for immediate action and to improve the ML algorithms at a planning and optimization level, to segmentation, targeting, channel content strategy recommendation at a very first step. So moving to the next section, now there might be a question: what are we trying to achieve through this transformation? The new age engine enables these 5 gears, which you can see on the screen, starting with intelligent data and analytics driven journey in end-to-end commercial operations, and they are driving almost near to real-time insights in an automated manner. Shift the customer engagement towards omni-channel framework from the traditional multi-channel approaches. Next important component, this enables orchestration role of sales reps from earlier reach and frequency based approach. Another key component is the measurement framework. The traditional siloed channel performance measurement is transformed towards the cross-channel measurement framework, which not only provide real-time channel recommendation but also insight to refine some of the machine learning driven algorithms, which is basically enables in-flight optimization of channel and content recommendation. Moving to the next slide. Now coming towards the core part of our further discussion. So our overall solution components are divided into 6 buckets. So starting with customer strategies, here we'll cover the customer segmentation, personas, some of the scoring techniques, then followed by channel and content strategies. Here we define what channel content needs to be deployed for each customer micro segments. Once we understand the same, next would be the marketing mix analysis to build a response curve and to quantify the investment for each channel and high-level touch point recommendation. So once we have that in place, the next important component would be call plan and sequencing, and that covers the actual execution plan where customer engagement journey has been laid out in the form of next best action. And once the call plan is in place, next the deployment and execution plan. This is the place where all the analytics component, technology, and people get merged and define on-field execution plan. And the last and important component is the measurement framework, which not only provides the omni-channel performance in real time, but also ties back all the solution components, which is mentioned in the earlier section. Next, passing over to Krishnan to walk us through the customer, channel, and content strategies.
Thank you, Deb. One of the, as we move into this, we would try to deep dive into each of these attributes and components that Debashish spoke about. That helps in developing this, and integrated sales and marketing operations, which pivots towards, and holistic omni-channel engagement, right? As we all know, one of the primary components of any kind of customer strategy development is about building this foundational understanding of who your customers are, right, and what their needs and wants are, basically, right? A sound understanding of the customer base ideally starts with the process of something called a segmentation, right? So which is nothing but takes into account the dividing the customer groups into clusters of segments who typically exhibit similarities on across attributes, right, and also provide the relevant kind of potential that the brand would need, right? So a well-defined customer groups, as we say, would form the aspect or base for any kind of marketing activities and interventions. Historically, we have seen that from a past experience, the approach to customer segmentation has been driven by fulfillment of day-to-day campaign needs, right? So this leads to developing various disconnected segments and groups that are being ad hoc in nature, right? So anytime a customer segmentation is done, there are certain kind of marketing activities that drive those or promotion needs, and hence ad hoc segmentation approaches are being adopted with a single dimensional view which takes into account some of the attributes like demographics, prescription behavior, or other kind of potentials, right? But what happens is a drawback is any kind of simplistic demographics based approach, which like taking into account age or income or other educations, are typically considered to be poor predictors of actual consumer behavior, right? And hence the traditional approach lacks understanding of factors that influence a physician's behavior. Why is a segment low writer? And what are the attributes that define why and say why the doctor is a low writer? Is it because the doctor's lack of interest in the brand, or the kind of patient profile the doctor treats is different, or the potential itself is pretty low, right? And understanding of these components, the drivers behind these are important. And hence our approach to segmentation is by adopting a multidimensional view of the customer to understand the needs, desires, and behaviors. Typically, the type of patients treated, the affiliations of the doctors, the treatment and adoption preferences, depending on the life stage of the patients, the condition of the patients, and of course, the demographics of both the customer and the end patients as well, right? So in our approach, customers are measured across each dimensions, or what you see on the left hand side, right? There are multiple dimensions that's been represented. So in our approach, the customers are scored on each of these dimensions, and the sub attributes of each on these dimensions and assigned a score. For example, a doctor could be scored high, medium, or low basis his or her patient coverage, or could be scored high risk, a loyal, or a switcher based on their switching propensity, right? So depending on the case, we typically leverage different types of models. It could be either an supervised or an unsupervised learning, or at times it could also be a business rule driven models, right? So microsegments are further created by combining one or more of these attributes to arrive at individual personas. Right? So an appropriate microsegment would be decided based on the brand's goals, challenges, and the positioning need of these brands. So in this case, the outcome of this microsegmentation, for instance, an example given over here is combining multiple dimensions. The HCP persona 1 looks like, it's probably a group of specialists in the respective fields who are high writers and who typically treat severe condition patients and probably considered to be influencers in their circles, right? So this is how respective customer personas are built. And once we build these personas, we move on to the next stage, which defines about what kind of behavioral aspects do these guys exhibit, do these customers exhibit, right? So Tarun, next slide. So once the individual customer personas are identified, marketers are now need to decide how to engage with these customers. There are a wide option and variety of channels to engage with the customers, and marketers need to ensure they prioritize the right ones, and hence defining the appropriate channel strategy becomes the next crucial step in the customer strategy development, right? So all of this starts with this section starts with understanding what level of affinity do these customers exhibit across different channels. Each customer, as we all know, is expected to exhibit varying levels of preferences across channels based on our individual affinity towards each of these channels, and our psychographics and other demographic aspects typically define these behavior, right? So we leverage historical interaction data and machine learning models to derive respective channel affinity for individual customers. Example, certain customers exhibit high affinity towards face-to-face and tele as a channel, right? While others could exhibit affinity towards digital channels, right? Once we identify these, which typically defines what kind of channel affinity the segment exhibits, we bring in a process. In our process, we typically bring in the aspect of business and domain aspect and overlay it on top of our models to refine the engagement strategy further. Channel personas are further overlaid with factors like category dynamics or what stage of the brand what life stage the brand is currently is in, right, etc. And refine channel targeting strategies that the brand should adopt. Let me give you an example. For example, a group of doctor that could exhibit high affinity towards digital channels, but however, the brand in itself might have taken a conscious decision during its launch to target its high potential customers through personal touch points and so on, so that the brand is able to build a certain credibility and relationship with doctors through face-to-face and traditional channels. And once a relationship is built, and then move on and maintain this relationship with other kind of digital channels, right? So post considering all of these nuances, channel personas are arrived at and cross-mapped against the individual customer personas that were derived from the previous stage, right? So that's the last column which we see here. Basically, a typical example of a channel persona that we see on persona number 1 are typically traditional customers who are face-to-face and tele, right? And one can actually overlay the customer personas that were built from stage 1. Tarun, let's move on to the next slide. The next stage in the journey is the development of content personas, right? So similar to the previous section, this is about understanding what type of communication do customers prefer and use this to tailor future messages, right? So this process involves developing models to categorize all historical communications and then assigning them affinity scores by individual customers, right? So typically there are multiple interactions that could have happened in the past, and each of these interactions could have had different kind of content and messaging that the brand would have communicated with the customer, right? So what we do is we use certain NLP models to classify each of these communication into some kind of topics or key messages, right? And post that, what we do is we try to integrate these messages and affinity models, affinity scores with the customer's interactions, right, across these touch points. So the brand could have had certain kind of messages communicated through email, or the brand could have also done other kind of communication through face-to-face or other social media channels, right? So what we do is we look at the outcome of these interactions and map it back to the kind of content which the customer is engaged, and assign affinity scores across each message type they had been exposed to, right? So in this stage, what we do is we use certain kind of probabilistic classifier models, right? Basis their respective affinities across messages and message type, content personas of the respective customer groups are arrived at, right? So during this process of channel persona recommendation, similar to what we saw in the previous stage of channel recommendations, right? So what we do is we look at certain kind of other factors, incremental factors that play a role in defining these content personas, right? So in this case, what we do is we look at the interaction of the customer's life stage that comes into play, basically, right? So what kind of content affinity that has to do with the customer's life stage. For example, the customer who is in the early stage of the journey, the objective of the brand would be to generate awareness and hence identify those kind of messages that would build the brand's credibility, and so on and so forth, right? So typically we use these kind of a combination of life stage and the content affinity scores to typically arrive at the content personas. And here's an example of the content persona that you see in the right side. So these set of customers typically prefer safety and clinical trials as the messaging of the message of communication to be had with these customers. Tarun, next slide. So finally, this is a culmination of the entire journey of customer understanding process across the 3 stages that we saw in the last 3 slides, right? So integration of each of these multi-dimensional segments are combined to arrive at meaningful micro segments, or we call as the customer personas, right? That the business can identify as potential target groups to evaluate or invest their or to identify their investment efforts, right? So what you see here is on the left side, there are each of the three stages gave us different kind of customer personas, channel persona, and content persona. We integrate all of these to arrive at cross-map and arrive at microsegments. And what you see on the right are an example or illustration of the typical microsegments, right? So the persona looks like, microsegment 1 looks like specialists with high writers and severe condition patients who are treating severe condition patients. And the preferred channel of engagement is typically traditional methods, which typically looks like face-to-face and tele. And they also exhibit high affinity towards safety and clinical trial information, right? So in future, any kind of communication that needs to be had with the segments can be done through these kind of channels and key message strategies. Now that we have a good understanding of how customer personas are created and the strategies defined, channel and content strategies are defined, let's understand more about what should be the investment strategies by each of these microsegments. Debashis will walk us through the next stages of these strategies.
Yep. Thanks, Krishnan. So once the customer microsegments are defined and we know the channel and content strategies, the next we would like to define the engagement journeys. And the first step towards the same is marketing mix analysis. Many of us know what is the expected outcome from marketing mix analysis. And similarly here in our case, this steps helps identifying the level of investment across various marketing tactics for different microsegments. Basically quantifying the level of investment across those channels and operate at desired ROI with the constrained budgets. So there are so many models exist to address this based on historical data, but the challenge arises when a brand enters into a new market, when a promotional strategy needs to change significantly. Such situations may arise as a forced one, as in the case of COVID pandemic, or triggered by internal business dynamics or any change in the brand strategy. Various models been tried to address these situations. For example, leveraging analogs based on response curves, experience from other industries or benchmarks. Some of those approaches work for some brands, some may not work. So we'll talk about these approach in detail, but in a more strategic way. As in this slide, you can see there are 4 buckets created to address all such kind of situations. And the need for the same may arise as a result of customer and channel strategies. As the example quoted here, the micro segment 1 needed expansion beyond the existing channel. Another example, micro segment 2 can go with the existing deployed channels, and probably we need a new segment which is arised as a need of the brand and need to go complete digital engagement. If we have understood all those 4 buckets of marketing mix, in subsequent slide, we'll talk about how we are solving each of these buckets and generate response curves. Next. Starting again with the basics of marketing mix, any sales or prescription is a function of 3 different entities: base sales, carryover, and current promotion impact. The base is the brand equity built over time, typically 0 for a new launch and high for a matured or well-established product. Carryover is the past promotion impact, and now here our focus component is the sales coming from the current promotion. And in this component, we build the response curves, which is further used in optimization of the budget and design the call plan. The point 1 to 4 below are the same buckets we discussed in the earlier slide. Here we discuss the approach followed for marketing mix buckets. Starting with the bucket 1, which is driven by the traditional approach, we have the history, build model using the same, and find all the components. Typically, we use nonlinear regression model like exponential or logarithm diminishing curves. Now the concern starts from bucket number 2, where we introduce a new channel, for example, virtual calls in recent time. Here, response curves can be built leveraging analogs, experience from other industries or benchmarks, but someone doing this exercise for the first time or couldn't able to find the relevant analogs, the best way to start this, best way to get the relative impact of the new channel is basically try to figure out what is the relative impact of sales for that channel compared to the Salesforce. For example, one Salesforce call is 10 times more effective than one email interaction. So simply bump down or bump up the face-to-face response curves by 1/10 to get the emails response curves. And this curve can be further adjusted based on open rate, click-through rates, or any other metrics relevant to that specific channel. The relative impact information is available in many public forums or can be derived from a quick market research. So for the rest of the two buckets, 3 and 4, we need to engage new SCPs. Based on, the base and the carryover doesn't play a significant role here, but the channel impact, we can use a lookalike kind of a model and leverage what we have derived from the bucket 1 or 2. So then moving to the next section, once we have the response curves in place and we know what is the budget constraints we have with respect to each of these channels, the next important component is to define the call plan and define the next best action. So this is basically a 3-step process. We'll start with the call frequency. So this is so our objective is to find here the optimized call frequency and which is applicable or personalized at SCP level. So the components what we use here are the promotion response curves we derived from the previous section and the business objectives, guardrails, constraints. Some of those examples are like how much budget we have for that brand, ROIs at which I need to operate for those channels, and the access constraint and all other stuffs. And using all those components into optimization technique, some of those techniques are here mentioned, differential method or genetic algorithm can be used to derive at what frequency I need to operate for a given SCPs across various channels. So once we have this information, then we'll move to the next step, which is basically a kind of a journey planner. So we know that all the channels been deployed for that SCPs need to be sequenced. So any machine learning model like Markov chain model or any rule based on constraints can be used to define the journeys, and which as an output comes as what exactly the channel we need to interact with first, what will be the subsequent channels, and so on. And at the same time, as we have the content strategy also in place, we can put the content also on top of those channels and create the entire journeys. And over time, based on successful interaction, this can be real-time adjusted or tweaked or maybe refined. And the third component here is time and day when we need to call. Obviously, some of the channels are so much constrained, we cannot put this kind of constraint for those channels, but wherever applicable, there are two models can help to define that. One is weekday bucket and another is the day time bucket. So there are two different modules. There are two different modules which basically comes out of assemble based machine learning models, and that defines in a given week what is the best day when that channel engagement suits for that particular doctors, and in a given day what is the time bucket suits for that particular SCP. And that's how the success of the engagement goes up and have a successful interactions, and it leads to better digital affinities. So that's how we can create the entire journeys for the SCPs through different channels and content associated with them. So once we have them in place, the next slide is to define the deployment and execution plan. So this is a place where analytics component, technology, and people come together and define the overall execution plan. So on left hand side, all the components except reporting solution already been discussed and they plugged into the customer management system. Focusing on the right side, which is heavy on the people component, needs further more analytics driven processes, but now they are relatively simpler. For example, Salesforce sizing is almost done in our previous steps as a part of marketing mix. At this stage, we build response curves and define how many people we need on the ground based on workload. Incentive compensation at initial stage needs definitely refinement, and MBO components or the business objective based components needs to be given more weightage, but can be refined over time. Similarly, from marketing side, now the agencies will have more informed execution plan to follow. So it will be easier them and may not need to go to create a siloed strategies anymore. Finally, the third component, the whole customer management system plays a significant role, not only to enable the omni-channel framework, also holding both the analytics engine and the people component together and provide a differentiated customer experience. So overall, all the three components works as an automated engine, which is fueled by the data management component, which we haven't covered here. Now turn to Tarun, who will be taking us through the measurement framework in the subsequent slides.
Thanks, Dave. So when we come to the measurement and optimization, which happens to be the last step in the series of solution components, it's almost natural to feel that this is probably happening in in a reactive way. But just wanted to highlight first that just like all the previous solution components, even the measurement and optimization has to be decided and determined proactively in line with the brand objectives, just like the customer strategy, the channel strategy, content strategy, and even the customer journeys that are designed. So even the measurement and optimization attributes have to be decided upfront. Now, for the sake of this presentation, while measurement itself is a big topic in itself, we have divided it into two parts. One being the measurement at program and business level, and the other being at the engagement level. So in this slide, we are talking about how the business stakeholders who are used to sort of look at the channel performances and attributes in a siloed way, because there is no integrated management system, measurement system in place. They sort of struggle to understand how exactly are their customers evolving along the customer life stages. So what we're trying to show here is that for the business stakeholders in an omni-channel world, it will be important to see that while they're utilizing a number of channel tactics, how are they really making their customer progress along the progression of customer life, along the customer life stage progression. So let's say if your brand objective is to spread the awareness first, and you obviously want customers to engage with you actively, and then maybe start prescribing or act according to your intent of the campaigns. Now, why is it important to keep customer in the center is because if you once you see that you're able to make customer aware, and you might be able to find some gaps and some bottlenecks when your messaging or your channel tactics are sort of doing a good job of making customers aware, but then maybe they are not progressing along the curve that you probably expected them to really have a journey on. So when I say that business stakeholders really need to know what they are doing well and where they need to improve. So a cross-channel measurement eventually helps them, the business stakeholders, to really have a bird's eye view of the customer flow against the campaign goals, the brand goals, the objectives against which they have their measurement KPIs defined, and also it helps the effectiveness of their engagements with the customers. Now, such measurements can then really feed back to the previous steps that we just discussed in this session, where you can feed back to the customer strategies, the channel and the content strategies. And I forgot to mention that it's also important to understand that how your content is performing. Content eventually is the king, which is absorbed by the customer. And then if you're not able to really understand the performance of your content across channels, then it's really shooting in the dark, right? So while some of this feedback loops might not happen in real time at the program or the business level, it can be defined at a periodicity which the business stakeholders are comfortable with. but then the strategies don't really change over time, don't really change in real time, but of course have to be measured in a periodic way. So now we'll move to the measurement at the engagement level. So when we talk about and really, I mean, the essence of omnichannel is really experienced when the customer is kept at the center of it, and the touch points which the customer is hit upon with are more customer focused rather than brand focused. So what we do at Indegene really is that we measure the engagement score for a customer, and I'll come to how that is defined, where we are able to sort of understand the impact of a channel or of a touch point with respect to, let's say, a sales rep's meeting with her doctor. So if I give a weightage of, let's say, 1 to a sales rep meeting a doctor and that being a successful event, then some of these other touch points can be given a weightage in accordance or in align or in comparison to that in-person touch point. So some of these weightages which you see on the left of the screen are of course defined as per the historical responsiveness of these channels. And when you don't have the historical responsiveness, you can probably use the benchmarks. But then why I'm saying these are illustrative is because these are also subjective in nature. The weightages given to a touch point for a channel might just depend on what therapeutic area it is, or which kind of brand are you really measuring these touch points. Is it a mature brand or is it a launch brand? It would really depend on how these weightages are being computed for that brand. And even these can vary by, let's say, markets, because some markets might have a different behavioral traits of its customers compared to any other market. So what we are saying is that once you are able to measure the engagement score for a customer, keeping the customer at the center, at the start of the campaign itself, you can probably decide that where the customer is going to navigate on in terms of your engagement score. Is he going to respond very proactively? Are you really expecting the customer to convert quickly compared to some of the other customers? So you can really predict the trajectory on which you are expecting the customer to really navigate on. And on the graph on the right side, if you see that a high propensity customer, a customer who is likely to convert, might just have a higher or a propensity of conversion earlier than somebody who is a low propensity customer. But then it's also important to notice that all the conversions really happen at almost the same engagement score, which here is roughly 6.5 to 7 level. So once once the engagements become measurable in nature, these can be then fed back to the real touch, can be married with the real time touch points, where a sales rep can be made aware of how the engagement has been with the customer, how the customer has absorbed some of the information in the past, has he reacted positively or negatively to some of the channels or the content. And then if you really see some deviation, a big deviation from the trajectory that you really expected your customer to really embark upon, you can educate your sales rep, provide the insights to him via the CXM systems, where the next touch point where the sales rep talks to the rep or any other in-person touch point, they can align their communications, their messaging with the customer accordingly. So with that, we really have covered all the solution components. For the sake of this presentation, we have sort of put every step together and try to really cover every step in one view, where we sum it all, right? So the integrated sales and marketing engine, how it really works from end to end. So just to review, we started off with a customer base of a universe of customers, defined the customer personas utilizing multiple dimensions and different scores given to those customers, and really arrived at a customer persona on which we overlaid the channel propensities. The channel affinity scores for those customers are utilized to really understand that what are the customer preferences in terms of the channel attributes, and then overlaying the content personas, content propensity scores on top of it to really arrive at the content personas. And once you have the channel and the content decided, or sort of at least at the start, you would know that these are the channels and these are the messages that the customer is really likely to get activated. You put it all together along with the call plan and the sequence into the customer experience management system. And then you're ready to trigger your campaigns. So that's where your omni-channel campaign gets triggered and is ready for the measurements. So now on the bottom right of my screen, there's just a visual way of what we've been talking about. So let's say that the journey decided for an HCP says that you have a sales rep meeting with an HCP from, let's say, 7 days from 7 days from now. Then the triggers for that customer could really start off, let's say, at the -7 day. And these could be along the lines of the customer's propensity, along the channel, the content that is preferred to the customer. And these, of course, we are saying that these are not the only messages which will be communicated to the customer, but really are the messages that customer shows very high interest towards. So once the customer really acts in accordance with the intent of these touch points, and you understand that you're now ready for an in-person meet, the rep can really be enabled to have an informed meeting with the sales rep, where he has already known that how has this HCP understood, or rather educated himself or herself with the product offerings. And of course, the sales rep will also, and an in-person meeting is obviously invaluable, right? So the sales rep will also be able to understand some of the first-hand preferences from the HCP himself or herself, and is capable of feeding that back to the CXM system, where the real-time feedback goes into the engagement tweaking, right? The fine-tuning of engagements in the real time. So once the sales rep meeting happens and sales rep understands the preferences of the customer and basis the outcome of that meeting, the future touch points can be triggered. And these could obviously be triggered from the sales rep's handle in terms of the rep triggered email, or can be followed up with an MSL touch point, and so on and so forth, right? So this is just a demo journey that we tried to show here, where an omni-channel really comes to reality, right? So, so that's all that we wanted to cover in this presentation. I guess we are now open for questions, Chris.
Sure. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to type those into the question tab. And we have a few already, and I'm our research chair with PMSA, Tatiana Sorokina, who is solutions director at Novartis, will be handling the questions. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Indegene team, for taking us through this really detailed and exciting presentation. We have a few questions, and I'm going to start with the one that goes back to the beginning of your presentation, which reads, which comes from Rita Coley, and it reads, do we expect the impact of call activity to reduce in the new normal?
Let me take this question. So based on some of the surveys that we have seen, it is in fact an indication that the impact is bound to decline. That's because of the initial fact that more and more face-to-face interactions are going to be are going to come down, and this might indicate that the impact would need to be more customized. The touch points would need to be more customized based on the understanding of the individual customer's needs, and hence, if the brand is able to tailor the messaging and the communication per the needs of the customer, the impact should be similar, right? That should be maintained basically.
Very good, thank you. The next question comes from Ira Heimovitz. The question is about many of these digital promotions to HCPs are to limited volumes of doctors and have low response rates. Your data would be sparse. How do you deal with this partial information and extrapolate to high volumes of HCPs?
Dave, you touched upon this. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. So we understood that, I mean, in past situation where some of these digital channels didn't work and the conversions are low, but in recent time, I mean, there are 2 points associated with that. So in recent time, we have seen the significant impact starts for those digital channels. And that's how the conversions and the volume starts increasing. That's one way of looking. And another way of looking is, obviously, from a brand perspective or for a company perspective, the data might not be enough to make an informed decision at the beginning. But if we go and look into the market, there can be a lot of data available, which is tested for other brands, other therapy areas, or for other channels. So if we can start leveraging them, so we can have a good volume of data, so that we can start our analysis and build the engagement plan on top of that. So in a nutshell, so maybe we can start with the lower data or less engagement information, but if we get into the engine and start engaging more with respect to digital, we see there will be a substantial volume of customers started engaged through digital channels, and at the same time our real-time measurement framework and the data we capture at the back end will give us a lot of more insights, and the engines will move faster.
Thank you. Very interesting viewpoint on the sparsity of data, and I hear you on this question. It's definitely a challenge. The next question comes from Kathy Council. What is the average number of shifts in non-personal promotion and personal cadence of events per doctor in a 3-month campaign? Can you ballpark it?
Can you repeat that question?
Sure. So what is the average number of shifts in NPP and personal cadence of events per physician in a 3-month campaign? So the way I understand this is the shift between digital and personal is rather challenging, right? It's not as seamless as just going between the banner and an email, for example. So how many shifts do you anticipate to see based on your analysis in a, let's say, a 3-month campaign for a given doctor?
Yep. So should I take the answer, Krishnan?
Yeah, sure,
yeah.
Sure, Dave.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the question, if I have understood correctly, I mean, what is the volume of shift between digital and personal in a given situation, right? So it's purely driven by the affinity towards digital for that particular customer or the micro segments we are building. And right now we are living in a very constrained universe where the face-to-face access is limited. So the shift will be less. It will be more focused on a digital or virtual calls or some kind of a webinar kind of situation. But in a normal situation, this shift can be seamless and they can have a multiple shifts, but it's purely depend upon the persona of that SCP towards both digital and personal on personal touch point. So it is agnostic to, I mean, we cannot say that a given model will fit everywhere. So it will purely come how the channel and content strategies has been built for that particular group.
Okay, thank you. The next question comes from Vikash Singh. How content interactions used? How are content interactions used as a dimensions for customer segmentation? So content, how is it used?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, please answer.
Okay, got it. So I believe the question is about how content as a dimension is being used to do customer segmentation. So there are different types of contents that are being consumed by customers, right? And brands historically have targeted customers with or tried different kind of contents in the past, right? So and basis of historical interactions, we get to understand what kind of content resonates well with different customer segments, right? So there could be a pool of customers who are more ready and open to receive and understand about information around the efficacy of the brand, right? And it's the dosage information. While there could be other set of customers who are more interested in understanding more about, the some of the results of clinical trials or other kind of, innovations the brand is being up to, right? So this helps us in, it's like very similar to how a segmentation typically happens. So which is, you look into different kind of attributes. So we try to break down these components of the content, modularize them, and then break it down, and then create certain scores or affinity scores for each of these content, and identify the dimensions behind each of these customers and where do they fall in these dimensions, right? So that's how we look at content as a way to actually segment customers.
Thank you. We have time for maybe one more question before I turn this back over to Chris. So the next question comes from Venkat Arbangi. How do you design omni-channel call planning for portfolio scenario? When I understand when you have multiple products within the therapeutic area.
Yeah, should I answer that, Krishnan?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so when we are talking about omni-channel, so right now in our entire presentation, mainly focusing on a single brand. Now, if we have to focus multiple brands together, so we can either replicate the same as a portfolio if everything is catering to the same thing. Else, the alternative option is, so there are digital channels, emails, or any other channel which are more personalized towards certain brands or certain attributes. So we will be focusing only on the brand. And for example, face-to-face, like sales rep visiting doctors, so there we can focus on the portfolio. So what I meant here is we can create a parallel strategies for all the brands which falls under a portfolio, and wherever we need to consider multiple brands together and we have a brand level strategies in place, we merge them and define a multi-product or a portfolio level call plan. Simple example, suppose at a call plan level we have defined 3 calls to be made to a doctor, and we define that these are specific time period where the affinity towards having a successful meeting is high. And this is, we are talking from customer perspective, so his successful interaction will be high, that is depend on his availability. Now the same we define for another product where there might be two calls required for the time period. So when the rep goes and meet the doctor, so both the product will be merged and he will deliver both the products together, obviously with a different weightage. But that's how for a rep or any other events where we need to manage multiple brands together in that specific event, we'll merge all those brands together and plan accordingly. But at the same time, some of the digital channels which are specific to one brand, so those channels will go in parallel with respect to that specific brand only.
Thank you. So now I'll turn this back over to Chris to close.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for attending, and be sure to check out pmsa.org for more upcoming webinars. We have 2 more scheduled in August. Thanks again, and thanks to our presenters from Indegene.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.